This is Anikulakpo Rise of the Spectre Season 2 Episode 1, 2 and 3. Saro and Arolake's unfortunate ending might just be the beginning of another journey. To watch the full movie, catch up on Netflix, sit back, watch out and enjoy. Don't forget to like and subscribe as we recap this thrilling movie. The chief priest of Oyo knew that the kingdom would be faced with great calamity when he woke up from a nightmare. He knew that Kola, the god of death and vengeance, is not happy, and soon enough his wrath will visit the kingdom. Saro awoke to find himself in strange land, still confused on how he got there. He joined the queue to an unknown destination after his question yelled no answers, as no one could tell where they were going to. When they finally got to the heaven's gate, Saro was denied entrance as he owed a debt by taking Akola's power. The angel of the gates gave him a solution to go back to the world and retrieve back those lives he resurrected and hand him a charm to use. Saro knew he had no choice but to kill the 20 people he resurrected with his powers or risk turning into a stone. He set out his journey to right his wrong, only to discover he's a wandering messenger of death whose physical body was rotten on the mountain. Arolake, on the hand, is still in a journey looking for a place to call home, as a messenger of death makes it to Ojumo. Then he killed 3 of his victims who were people who died before, but he rose them to death when he had those powers. On his 4th attempt, the old blind woman acknowledged his presence and refused to be killed, giving him a solution to free himself from being a messenger of death. She asked him to bury his remains, take soil from where he buried it and pour it on a village he decided to settle. Saro became dead person living amongst the living when he did as the old woman said. His first as a human was spent wandering around the kingdom of Ajay. Unknown to him, the spirit of his 3 victims followed him around. They however make themselves known to him and requested he leads them to heaven gate. They gave him food to eat and regain his strength. After much persuasion, they listened to Saro and gives him 3 years to live amongst the living before they leave for the land of the dead. On the other side, still worried about the frequent nightmares, the chief priest of Oyo visit the king and tell him the nightmare in relation with everything including death happening in the kingdom. He suggests the only solution is Arok righting the wrong she has done. The king fairly believes him and sends Adegon to speak his truth. Adegon was summoned before the king, the chief priest and the council of elders, often referred to as Oyemesai. He narrates his story of how he lost Arek to the river when he successfully found her. The king and the council believes him, but the chief priest leaves not saying a word, finally deciding to dwell in Ajay. Saro finds a job with the help of Kekoroki, who later becomes his friend. He resumed work immediately and was paid. He was also assigned a huge job the next day, but Saro woke up to a miracle that would change his entire life. The next day Saro saw a jar of palm wine and the 3 spirits confirm it's what he will sell to Ann Smith. At this point Saro's new business took a great turn and everyone in the village was hooked. This new development caused great loss to Korowi, the only palm taper in the village. Saro's business grew over the years, putting Korowi out of business. Saro, as you all know, always been a complicated person, started a relationship with Lotorora, Korowi's daughter. This father infuriates Korowi and he tries to set up Saro using his daughter. One night Latorora visits Saro and stays over. The next morning she finds him awake with his palm wine, inquiring about the source of his palm wine. Saro gets mad at her and reveals that he's aware that her father sent her to him. It causes a confrontation between them, but Saro, always being a good woman handler, makes Lotorora choose him over her father. The next morning Lotorora moves in with Saro, leaving her father behind. This new development worried the 3 spirits and they voiced out their worries. Saro's deal with them is almost going to end, as he has lived for 2 years. Adding a woman in his life will make things difficult and the spirit knows this. They make him promise to keep to his word. Selo knows he's in a serious dilemma. On the other side, realizing the king and his council of Oyemesai do not take his word seriously, the chief priest sought the Boshoro opinion. However, the Boshoro reveals that although he's to be an in-law to the king as their children are betrothed, the king has an unkind dislike for him and doesn't listen to him. Instead, he prefers the council opinion. He further talks about the king's likeness to Koranga, who now protests the 8 brothers, on how he lost the war to him. The chief priest went ahead to tell him about his nightmares and the solution, and Boshoro promised to help him. Meanwhile, the king and his council talk about Boshoro and his unlikely ways on handling the military. Some believe he's too ashamed and angry to face the king and the council. Few days later, Boshoro invites Adigo to his palace. Welcoming him warmly in his home, he inquires about his bounty hunt story for Arolake. Adigo tells his story, but Boshoro thinks he fishy. He smartly gets him to the truth, putting him off. He brings Adigo to the king and council. There Adigo confessed that Arolake was never lost to the river, rather she and Saro saved his life, and in return he had to hide the fact that she's still alive. The king was furious about this and he sends out all his resources to the neighboring village to search for Arolake and Saro. He threatens to take Adegon's life if they are not found. The next day Oworu visits Bashoro and complains about losing Coco to thugs at Idi and requested for assistance. Being his full-time lover, Bashoro decides to help her and send warrior to her the next day. All the king's men effort to find Arolek and Saro in the numbering village turned out be a waste. The various village agreed the couples came to their village years ago but left just as they came. This turn of events didn't sit well with Bashoro. He believes the king can do more. This caused a confrontation between two of them, but Bashoro walks out of the council. Right there the king makes a decree to award a huge sum of money to any household that finds Saro and Arolek. The Bashoro on the other hand had other ideas. He seeks out Adigo and sends him a private mission to find Arolek and Saro within 2 weeks or risk losing his life. Oworu visits him and later in the day he voiced out his intention of making her his wife. She points out she's too old for him and reminds him they can't be together. Arolek, walking in the bush, is badly injured by a spike. She was later rescued by Eken and his sister's family. They all decided to travel together to Yubo, but that journey is halfway when Arolek announces she can't continue the journey. They all left her behind and as she sleeps in the forest, she dreams a strange dream but is awoken by Eken the next day. She finds a strange package she receives in the dream on her and kept it to herself. Eken came to get her and a journey to his sister's place at Yubo. She finally settles in with help of Eken, who helped to find her a job and protected her from wearing eyes of men. Later on she expresses her wish to buy a house but Eken disagrees to it until she says he could live with her. In one of the night, curiosity made her check the content of the package she got from the dream to see that is an endless money. Few weeks later was a house hunting experience with Akin until she bought a huge house to Akin's amazement. When he asked her of her source of wealth, she decided to keep it to herself since a man has once failed her. Few years later, Arolek is a prosperous woman with house in almost every crook and cranny of Yubo. Her house is filled with maize and Akin never fails to shower her with unending rare gifts. Akin stays beside her as a guardian as well as a protector, although they are both aware he loves her. In these same few years, Saro's palm wine jar runs completely dry. The three spirits are no longer helping him, and his business is gradually dying. Arolek's story and her wealth runs far and wide across towns. She became a benevolent money lender who lends money to people in need. Despite her good deeds, people start inquiring into the source of her wealth, while some also accuse her of lending blood money. Saro's situation on the other hand wasn't his wife notices, but he always kept to himself. Fighting in fever, she lessoned him to a river and promised to help him out with his spiritual issues. Eken is worried about Arolek's safety since our benevolence has gotten widespread attention. He points out that the king is in search of her again and the only solution is to run away together. At this point, Arolek is tired of running and finds a solution by hiring warriors to protect her, and always putting on a veil whenever she's outside her home. In Oyo, Awolora Bashoro's son and Omowomi the princess are playing the Ayo game. While her mother watches in admiration of the two lovebirds, Bashoro watches in disgust his son's behavior. He further insults him and scourges him of being lower version of him. Omowomi, on the other hand, confesses to her mother that she loves Awolora, but as a brother, and her mother wishes she sees how rare a man he is despite who his father is. Few days later, Eken visits the king with rare gifts from Arolek. Lying that his boss is a certain Madam Ashek who is a widow, he asks for his permission to let her visit Oyo and his neighboring village under his protection. Eken further tells the king his boss wears a veil and cannot be seen by any man curious yet too sure about Ashek. He gives his permission. The news of a woman sending rare gifts to a king reaches the king's wife, and she queries the king about it. He explains everything, but when she sees she's not satisfied, he leaves her room regretting trying to spend the night there. Eken is not happy. Arolek is trying to meet the king for a selfish reason. He voices out and Arolek reminds him they can't be together. The other queens and Omowomi are thrilled about the rare gift, but the first queen is not happy about it. She conspires with the junior queens to find out who sends the gift. The next day, after Eken dines with the king, he leaves only to be followed by the informant of the queens. He arrives at Arolek's place and sees her without a veil. When Arolek notices him, she cries out to Eken. At this point, Arolek's identity might just be revealed as a result of this. To find out more about what will happen next, watch out for episode 4, 5 and 6, and don't forget to like and subscribe to get notified when we drop it. Catch you in our next upload. Bye for now.